are the stories shaping the world this morning, and why they matter? As of Monday, July 6th, Venezuela is still searching for survivors more than 10 days after twin earthquakes devastated Caracas, La Guaira, and communities north of the capital. The quakes were reported at around magnitude 7, with one account listing magnitudes of 7.2 and 7.5. Officials now put the death toll at 3,342, with thousands still unaccounted for and more than 17,000 people left without homes. The damage goes far beyond collapsed buildings. A United Nations office estimated $37 billion in direct damage to housing and infrastructure. Hospitals are under severe strain, and residents describe shortages of water, food, medical supplies, and shelter after years of economic, social, and political crisis had already weakened public services. International help is beginning to arrive. U.S., Spanish, and other search and rescue teams have been reported on the ground, and the U.S. military has begun delivering $150 million in humanitarian assistance, overseen by a 2-star Marine general. For families waiting near rubble, the immediate hope is still rescue. For the country, the longer challenge is rebuilding homes, clinics, roads, and trust in public systems that ordinary people rely on every day. In Iran, funeral ceremonies for former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei have taken place in Tehran, while uncertainty surrounds the country's new leadership and renewed tensions with the United States. Large crowds gathered for the ceremonies, and several of Khamenei's sons attended. His reported successor, Mujtaba Khamenei, did not appear publicly, with reports citing security concerns and fears of assassination attempts. Khamenei was expected to be buried in Mashhad on Thursday. The political transition is unfolding alongside a dangerous military exchange. A U.S. official told PBS that 6 U.S. aircraft attacked 4 Iranian targets, including radar installations and missile and drone storage sites near the Strait of Hormuz. Washington said the strikes were a response to an Iranian attack on the container ship Ever Lovely off Oman's coast. Iran called the U.S. action a reckless ceasefire violation and promised a swift, decisive response. Diplomacy has not disappeared. U.S.-Iran negotiations are expected in Pakistan on July 11th, with sanctions, frozen funds, and nuclear issues on the agenda. For Iranians facing inflation and political uncertainty, and for workers across the Gulf whose livelihoods depend on safe shipping routes, the stakes are practical as well as geopolitical. Russia and Ukraine have traded another major round of long-range attacks, with Kyiv again bearing the human cost. Ukrainian officials said Russian drone and missile strikes damaged residential buildings in the capital, killing civilians. France 24 reported at least 11 people killed, while DW reported at least 9. The assault was described as the second major Russian attack on Kyiv in less than a week. Russia said it targeted military sites, energy facilities, and airfields. Ukraine said homes were hit, leaving families to clear glass, find temporary shelter, and mourn those killed in neighborhoods far from the front line. Ukraine is also pressing its own campaign inside Russia. Russia's defense ministry said it shot down more than 500 Ukrainian drones overnight, while PBS cited more than 600 intercepted drones. Ukraine says it has hit 6 Russian oil refineries over the past month and destroyed or damaged more than 60 storage tanks. Kyiv claims Russia's oil industry losses since August 2025 have reached $13.5 billion. There was also a narrow sign of relief. PBS reported a prisoner swap in which 160 service members from each side returned home. President Volodymyr Zelensky said almost all the Ukrainian prisoners released in that exchange had been in captivity since 2022. Ukraine's air defenses and peace efforts are expected to be discussed at a NATO summit in Turkey. In the United States, Los Angeles Unified has adopted strict new limits on student screen time, marking a notable shift after years of expanding classroom technology. The district serves roughly 400,000 students, making the policy one of the most closely watched school technology changes in the country. Under the new rules, there will be no screen time before 2nd grade. Middle school students will be limited to 6 hours per week. High school students will be limited to 10 hours per week, including homework time. The policy allows exceptions for classes such as computer science or graphic design, where more screen use may be necessary. School board member Nick Melvoin said the goal is to recalibrate how technology is used, not to punish teachers or students. The district will still allow families that need devices or internet access to opt in for support, an important protection for low-income households that depend on schools to help close the digital divide. Melvoin previously sponsored a smartphone ban in the district. He said a teacher survey found more than 90% of teachers reported higher engagement and fewer mental health challenges after that policy. The new screen limits reflect a broader debate for families and educators: how to keep the benefits of technology without letting it crowd out attention, reading, hands-on learning, and social development. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is criticizing the Trump administration's move to end temporary protected status for Haitians and Syrians after a Supreme Court ruling cleared the way for the rollback. DeWine, a Republican, called the decision a mistake and bad for Ohio, with a particular focus on Springfield, where many Haitian migrants have settled. More than 10,000 Haitian migrants have settled in Ohio, according to the PBS report. DeWine said Haitian residents in Springfield are filling jobs, buying homes, opening businesses, and contributing to the community. He said employers have relied on Haitian workers to add shifts, take on larger projects, and expand economic activity. The governor also rejected the White House claim that Haiti is safe for returns. He said gangs control much of Port-au-Prince and noted that U.S. carriers do not fly there because planes are shot at. His argument was both humanitarian and economic. Removing legal protections could uproot families and destabilize local businesses. DeWine acknowledged that Springfield schools, hospitals, and clinics have faced added costs for language services and other needs after a rapid influx of new residents. But he said roughly 3/4 of Ohio's recent population increase came directly from immigrants. The debate highlights a real policy challenge. Communities need support to absorb growth, but workers and families who are already building lives should not be treated as disposable. Europe is facing record June heat and expanding wildfires, with authorities across several countries trying to protect people from dangerous conditions while keeping daily life functioning. PBS cited the World Weather Attribution Group calling the week's European heat wave the most severe and widespread ever recorded. The United Kingdom broke its June temperature record for a third straight day. Spain saw all-time June highs, and health authorities there estimated more than 300 heat-attributable deaths. In France, a media segment reported at least 2,000 more deaths than expected during the heat wave, with that number expected to rise as more data comes in. The effects have been immediate for ordinary people. The Netherlands closed many schools and some government operations to avoid unnecessary heat exposure. In Rome, authorities used mist near the Colosseum to bring relief to visitors and workers in public spaces. France 24 reported about 10,000 people evacuated from 2 small towns near the Spanish border because of a massive wildfire. DW reported wildfires across Portugal, Spain, France, and Greece, with several countries issuing red alerts. The crisis is a reminder that climate adaptation is no longer abstract. Cities are being pushed to expand cooling centers, protect outdoor workers, adjust school schedules, improve public warnings, and invest in landscapes that reduce fire risk. Those steps do not erase the danger, but they can save lives. In Albania, protests that began over a proposed luxury coastal resort near flamingo habitat have widened into a broader movement against the government. Demonstrators and environmental groups are using flamingo-shaped placards as a symbol of opposition to the project, which is planned near a protected area inhabited by flamingos. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, is involved in the resort project and shared renderings in 2024. Prime Minister Edi Rama supports the plan and has said accusations against it are unfounded. But protesters say the issue is larger than one development. They point to corruption, inequality, distrust of the political class, and concern that public land and fragile ecosystems are being used for private gain. Some demonstrators have called for Rama to step down. Others are also criticizing opposition leaders who governed before him, arguing that the problem is a political culture that has not done enough to protect ordinary citizens or public resources. Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index gives Albania a score of 39 out of 100, among Europe's lowest, according to NHK. Albania wants to join the European Union by 2030, and the European Commission has said the project may breach EU environmental regulations, Reuters reporting cited police using water cannons and tear gas. The protests show how environmental protection, democratic accountability, and economic development are increasingly linked. Israel and Lebanon have signed a US-backed framework agreement aimed at ending fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, though major questions remain unresolved. The agreement was announced in Washington with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors present. The details have not been made public. An Israeli official told the Associated Press that the talks addressed the redeployment of Israeli forces inside Lebanon. That redeployment would reportedly follow the clearing of Hezbollah infrastructure and the group's disarmament. Israel's representative described the deal as a performance-based trilateral framework agreement. Hezbollah was not part of the U.S.-mediated talks. The Iran-backed group said it would reject any plan that requires its disarmament or removal. That makes implementation uncertain, especially in communities in southern Lebanon where civilians have already lived through repeated strikes, displacement, and economic pressure. Israeli airstrikes were reported near Nabatea earlier the same day, despite a ceasefire with Hezbollah. For families on both sides of the border, the immediate need is a durable halt to violence and conditions that allow people to return to homes, schools, farms, and workplaces. The framework may be a diplomatic opening, but without buy-in from the armed groups and protections for civilians, its promise remains limited. Hamas has announced the dissolution of the body that has governed Gaza for nearly 2 decades, a move described as opening the way for a technocratic committee to administer the Strip. The announcement is significant, but it leaves core questions unanswered. France 24 reported that Hamas's move dissolved the governing body that has run Gaza since the group took control there. The proposal would clear the way for a new technocratic committee rather than direct Hamas rule. Ministers and employees of the Hamas government are expected to remain temporarily in place, suggesting that any transition would be gradual. The largest uncertainty is Hamas's military wing, which was not addressed in the statement and still holds de facto power in Gaza. There is also the question of whether Israel would allow replacement officials to enter and operate. Haaretz reporting cited by France 24 said Israel had not changed its position against allowing members of the Palestinian technocratic government into Gaza. For Palestinians in Gaza, governance is not theoretical. It affects food distribution, sanitation, hospitals, schools, policing, reconstruction, and access to aid. Without a replacement civilian administration and without an agreed security arrangement, the Hamas announcement could be largely symbolic. Still, it marks a possible opening in a long-stalled conversation about who can govern Gaza and how civilians can be protected. Australia and Fiji have signed a mutual defense alliance requiring each country to aid the other if attacked. The agreement, called the Ocean of Peace Alliance, marks Fiji's first security pact and is part of Australia's wider effort to deepen defense ties across the Pacific. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the alliance creates a mutual defense obligation. The two countries agreed that an armed attack on either would threaten regional peace and security. Australia will invest about $700 million over the next decade to support the initiative. For Fiji, the pact is a major step. For Australia, it is now the 4th such agreement, after alliances or security pacts with the United States, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea. Observers say closer ties with Fiji could help Australia counter China's growing influence in the Pacific. The Pacific region has become a focus of strategic competition, but for island communities, security is also about sovereignty, economic stability, and having reliable partners that respect local priorities. The challenge for Canberra and Suva will be to make the alliance more than a geopolitical signal. It will need to support practical cooperation while ensuring that Pacific nations remain central to decisions affecting their own region. In the Philippines, the Senate has opened the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. She is accused of misusing public funds and threatening to have President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. killed. Duterte denies the allegations. Sara Duterte is the daughter of former President Rodrigo Duterte. The House of Representatives approved the articles of impeachment in May. She did not appear in the Senate on Monday, and the trial is expected to last more than 90 days. The legal threshold is high. If 2/3 of the 24-member Senate votes to convict, Duterte would be removed from the vice presidency. A conviction could also permanently disqualify her from holding public office. Outside the Senate, anti-Duterte protesters faced off with police, reflecting the deep political tensions surrounding the case. The Senate is also dealing with another major issue tied to the Duterte era. Senator Ronald De La Rosa, a former national police chief under Rodrigo Duterte, faces an international criminal court arrest warrant. His role in the Senate adds another layer of pressure to a trial already shaped by questions of accountability, political rivalry, and public trust. For ordinary Filipinos, the proceedings matter because they test whether powerful officials can be held to legal standards and whether public money and public office are treated as responsibilities rather than personal assets. Former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has pleaded guilty to 1 count of illegally retaining classified information. Bolton, who served in the Trump administration and later became a critic of Donald Trump, appeared in federal court in Maryland and said he was sorry for his actions. Prosecutors said Bolton's conduct put national security at grave risk. He originally faced 18 counts related to the handling of classified information. The accusations included sharing notes with family members while writing a memoir. Under the plea deal, Bolton will pay more than $2 million in fines. He could face up to 5 years in prison. Sentencing is set for October 28th. The case is part of a wider debate in the United States over how classified information is handled by senior officials and whether accountability applies consistently across political lines. National security rules are meant to protect intelligence sources, diplomatic work, military planning, and public safety. When senior officials ignore those rules, the consequences can reach far beyond Washington. Bolton's guilty plea does not end that debate, but it does establish a legal admission in a case involving one of the country's most senior former national security officials. Follow for a daily world brief. Sources are linked in the description. That's the world as Minerva saw it.